Hi everyone, welcome to a very special edition of the Microsoft Spotlight podcast. We are live in person at the South Coast Summit. It's been a hectic couple of days. It's day 3 for me. Came here on Thursday. It's now Saturday, so feeling the tiredness, and I had a very early night last night, which is very unlike me. I am joined today by my usual co-host, Andrew. How you doing, mate?
I am good. So I've been here 3 days as well with this. Very tired, and I'm looking forward to the train home a bit later on, but it's part and parcel of what we do, isn't it? I've
got another night, pub quiz, and we are going for W's tonight. Only, W's only. We're winning. We won at the Scottish Summit, and I firmly believe we're winning again this year. And we are also joined today by our other usual co-host, Sophie Dimolo.
That's correct.
Dimolo.
Dimolo, yeah. People normally say Dimolo. It's not, it's Dimolo.
No, I've done this enough times to say your name properly.
Yeah. Hi everyone. I think we're all really looking forward to our session at 2 o'clock, which is the Women in Tech Roundtable. But we do have a very special guest right now with us, which I'm really excited to introduce. So I'd like to welcome to the podcast Carlene Jackson. Carlene, do you want to give yourself a bit of an introduction?
Hi, lovely to be here. Southampton. I actually just live down the coast in Brighton, so it's nice to come up along the coast this morning. The only thing is it was a bit dark, so I didn't really get to see much of the journey. So, and I will be staying tonight for the drink, so I probably won't get to see it on the way back. But so I run Cloud9 Insight. I'm the founder and CEO of Cloud9 Insight, and it's lovely to be here today.
Awesome. Yeah, to be fair, this morning was the first time I saw the view from my room. We're over the golf course, and we got here late Thursday. Then I just the curtains were closed and stuff like that on Friday. And then when I got back into the room, it's dark. So I was like, open the curtains. I was like, wow, that's a nice view. Look at my view. I sent a picture to Emma and everything. So
I hope you didn't pay extra for that view.
CDW did. Big up CDW for my nice room in Hilton.
Well, I would say big up to efficiency because my view is actually over the cricket pitch, so
sick.
With a balcony.
Oh wow,
oh, nice. The party's at yours. The after party's at yours, then, is it?
Yeah.
They upgraded you, though. But anyway, it's great to have you here, Charlene. And very last minute, we decided to pick up a podcast at the last minute before our next session. But
I'm very impressed you guys have just got all the kit just ready, rocking to go.
Almost. Almost. We had a couple of issues with cables, but we're here, and we haven't got webcam, unfortunately. So today isn't audio only. But Carlene, you are the founder of Cloud9 Insight. Can you just give us a roundup of what you do at Cloud9, and then we can dive straight into that?
Yeah, sure. So I actually founded the business just as Microsoft was launching CRM in the cloud in the UK. It had been going for a few years in the US. And before that, it had only been on-premise in the UK, so hence the name Cloud.
Okay.
As a clue, hopefully I make it a happy place, hence Cloud9, although I did hear a few years ago that in different countries, actually, it might be Cloud 11 or Cloud 7, but did you know that?
Nope.
So Cloud9 Insight. And for me, I've spent my whole life in helping clients in the CRM space. But what I've realised along the way, working with sort of big businesses, medium-sized business, small businesses, is actually what the value of implementing a CRM system is about how you use the data and how it supports your business grow. And so hence insight, because you can get some great insight from, if you do a good project, from the data that you have siloed across your business. And so, I've been having a lot of fun with my team over the last 12 years now, nearly.
Awesome. Wow.
Yeah, and so it's been a fantastic journey, and we feel very blessed that we work in this sector. The only downside is the shortage of talent. It's just so we do everything we can to create as much talent as we do. So I've actually even got as far as setting up an apprenticeship business as well, except then the pandemic happened. But I do a lot of work with early in careers and reskillers, and give people a break into tech, because we can all do having a break sometimes. So.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's a real good point, is like finding talent is like the most important thing, because I think a lot of companies go and just try and hire the already made solution out there, ready made product out there. But I think if you can harness talent, you could just see something inside someone like that's willing, like wants to come out and wants to work hard and has that charisma about them. we hired somebody last week, and if you listen to this, like, don't get a big head. But you know, he's quite junior and stuff like that. But just within the first 10 minutes of talking to him on this technical conversation, I was like, yeah, we're gonna hire him. I know for a fact.
Brilliant.
Just from the first like 10 minutes of conversation. So yeah, talent, like being able to identify talent and stuff, I think is really important. And yeah, good to see. So.
What do you think are what top qualities do you look for when you are looking for talent for Cloud9?
So I would say ambition is actually number one.
Okay.
Because in my mind, there's if you look at all the successful people, whatever their background or industry, whatever they do, not even in tech, actually their perception of sort of what's possible, and if sometimes actually people just need to be surrounded by some other people who will help them along the way. So that's the number one thing that I look for. Often if you're looking at, I'm quite happy to hire people straight out of school, to be honest. So obviously when you're looking at someone's CV, often you're looking for potential, and there are lots of clues. So if they have had a work history, it could be promotions within previous roles. If they haven't had a work history, you're looking at sort of what subjects did they pick, or what degree did they do, and also just, it doesn't have to be that they're confident, but just confidence to try new things. I think Microsoft would frame it as a sort of growth mindset. Are they happy to step outside the comfort zone and try new things? Because if they are, then we can give them the space to learn new skills, but often that requires a confidence to, you might say, to fail, because maybe they don't succeed first time. But if they feel confident to try new things, then there's no ceiling to what they can achieve, in my view.
Yeah. I think as well it's important because with technology and Microsoft in general, that is constantly changing. So in any role within tech, you've got to want to learn and constantly progress and do all that sort of thing. So having someone come out of school, I think that's sometimes better because they're in the unknown and it's like you're learning something new anyway. So I think that would work really well. So before Cloud9 then, just take us right back. Where did you start off, and then just tell us your journey to where you are today?
Well, when I was 18, I actually had a short stint for a couple of seasons in as a tour guide, believe it or not, in Austria and Sardinia, and I had to stand up at the front of the bus and give some directions that probably put me on the trajectory I am in now, maybe, in terms of being able to sort of work in sales or talking to clients. But I would say that following that, quite early on in my career, I actually went and worked at IBM, and that was a fantastic organisation for me because they invested a lot in skills around sales and legal training, and I think that stood me in good stead when I've been setting up my business, because you cannot underestimate the sort of importance of understanding sort of getting your contracts right and having good proposals. And instead of the amount of times I've heard of people who've submitted proposals to their client, which are effectively emails or back of proposals, you just can't run a business on that sort of approach. And so everything I've ever done, I've thought about how, if it's good enough for my business when it's sort of 4 or 10 times the size, and that's what I should be aiming for.
Yeah.
And so that growth and scale mindset has probably really helped me. Sort of that was at IBM, and then I've worked a lot in the consulting side, so I've been able to gain skills on how to deliver around clients' expectations, and my whole career is actually around CRM, so that's sort of been the common denominator. And I also spent a period of time, I was the general manager at Sage for their CRM division, and so that really was a great introduction for me into what I call the channel, the Microsoft channel. The channel for Sage and Microsoft is very similar in how they run, and so it helped me understand what it must be like to run a channel, and then to be a part of that as well. But then actually almost immediately after setting up my business, Cloud9 Insight, I actually moved to France for 4 years, to the Alps. But I had in my LinkedIn, living the cloud dream, because
literally,
it doesn't really matter, does it really?
Yeah.
Could be anywhere, as long as it's got good Wi-Fi. I did actually have to dust down shovel off the snow off the satellite. I had to get satellite internet because it's so far from the local exchange that it wasn't good enough for a call. I had a Vonage phone system at the time, and clients, they phoned a Brighton number and they would never have known that I was in the Alps. So I didn't want to make them too jealous.
My boss said the other day whilst I was in an interview with someone, they was saying about like work-life balance. He goes, I don't care where you work as long as you can get internet connection. So I just assumed I could just do a business trip to Barbados and just work on the beach and expense it, hopefully. Why not?
Do you know what? I actually lived in Barbados as a kid, so it's somewhere I know really well. But they were offering during COVID, and they possibly still do, easy visas to go and live there and work remote. So if you're half joking, maybe look into it.
Maybe we can do that.
I don't know about the expense bit. That might not work. And it's not a cheap place to live. I can tell you that. No. And it's but it's now independent actually.
Yeah. So you've had a busy couple of years. To be fair, I was just looking at your LinkedIn just then to try and get a scope of what things to talk about. You was it shortlisted for Women of the Year last year in the Women in Tech or something? You just want to describe that? I don't. What happened with that?
Well, I guess I do a lot of work around sort of early in careers, and I guess that was something I was nominated for. But I think it's important to be a role model as a female in tech to try and address the diversity sort of equation of not enough females. But I think I've actually got my daughter just turned 20, and she really cares about the planet and the environment, and I was like, hey, this tech thing can really help. You could really make a difference with the world and save the planet if you understood tech. She said, no, Mum, not for me. And I'm thinking, and I've got 2 boys who would definitely kill to work in tech, and I'm like, what are we doing wrong in our society? And then you hear about other countries like probably India and Poland, and their diversity, gender diversity is fantastic. So I just do everything I can now to make sure that there's enough role models out there that young women can think about, well, what could be my career options be in, because it's really important to have that diversity. I
think as we're sitting there at the South Coast Summit, I think it's really cool, like the amount of women role models I've seen around here. We've got Donna Sakar here, we've got so many guests, Zoe Wilson, think of other guests on the spot.
There is literally
so many
10 women that have been on our podcast who are here at this event today. And
there's lots of, compared to other events that I've seen, there's a lot more women in attendance, I think, compared to others that I've seen that are here today. And I think it's just really
There's still not enough.
There's still not enough.
We were actually having this conversation on the way here, and we were saying that we were a little bit disappointed with it.
Really?
From a woman's perspective, yeah. But I guess, and I was explaining this to Carlene, is that now it's just the norm. And like I look around and we were saying we don't even notice, so to speak. It's just when you actually think about it, that you just think, there's the proportion of men compared to women is.
But it's a steady increase, in my opinion. Like, isn't.
Do you think from last year?
Yeah, 100% from last year. Yeah, and like even compared to like other events and stuff. It's a lot more
get the
compared
stats.
to usual.
We should.
Yeah.
Good. You just let's get clicker out and just say by the exit. But I think there's a lot more than last year, and I think a lot more than the year before, because I'm seeing a lot more new like women that I didn't see last year, but I'm seeing all the same faces from last year as well. So that must mean that there's more, right?
You'd hope so.
Sounds like a growth.
Yeah. Well, maybe not. I know there's not enough, but as long as we can see like increases in growth and stuff like that, it's only heading in the right direction, and it can only get better, right?
Yeah. The other thing that when I started in the channel, actually, one thought I had, I remember going to a Microsoft event, and I was sitting near the back, and I just saw this sea of greying, balding 40-year-old men, maybe older, and I remember thinking, what happens when they all retire? Like, where's the young people?
But you got the grey and the balding on this table. Not quite 40 though, so we're right.
So, but I think there's definitely the younger generation is there, which is really good. So give us time. I'm sure we'll address all areas of diversity.
But I think like little rounds, like big round tables that we're doing later at 2:00, but we got 40 minutes until I think hopefully if we drive some good messages out of that, then next year there'll be more. The year after there'll be more than that, hopefully.
Yeah, I've seen a few people from Southampton University as well walking around, so maybe we should make sure that they know they're invited.
Yeah, 100%. So if you had, I asked a question I asked a couple of episodes back. If you could put one thing into a playbook on how to get women into tech, what would it be?
Well, I think it has to start really early. But I think early in schools, I think partners should probably spend more time, if they're doing any community charity work, making sure they're spending time with local schools to put forward inspiring sort of role models. But maybe make it I think the Power Apps is a great opportunity to introduce young people into the tech world and make them understand that they don't have to be deeply technical to sort of have fun in this space. It could be also sort of broadening awareness of the different types of careers. But one thing that Satya Nadella said a few years ago is that all the businesses are becoming tech businesses now, and I think the pandemic has sped that up. So I think that tech is something for everyone, really, whatever your career, whatever industry. And it's something that will definitely give young people a leg up in their career, and certainly the earning potential as well.
The second thing, Andrew said a lot of times, what is tech? What is the tech industry? It could be absolutely anything. You could be a heavy coder who just sits there writing code all day. You could be an architect who does a lot of high level stuff. You could be sales. You could be an account manager. You could be HR. It's like it's an ever-ending list, in my opinion. Yeah. And I just think as soon as even young boys and young girls start to understand that the big world, interesting world out there, that I think that's when people start to get a bit interested. As you said, power platforms, AI, and stuff like that. I done a work experience thing back in August with a bunch of some kids from school, from a local school in South London. And I taught them the AI 900 course, so artificial intelligence. I was like, what can I do? Which is a little bit interesting. The kids are going to be like, yeah, AI, that's cool. And unfortunately, out of the 5, there was all boys. And I said to them, where are the girls? Why was there no girls that came along? And there was no girls in our class, in our computer science class. And I was like, why? And they're like, oh, there was one, but she didn't want to come along to the class and sign up to the class because she would have been the only one with no other friends. So I said, why don't you be an ally and say, if you're interested and you want to do it, come along, don't worry about it. Be the person who's the change. As I said it before in other episodes, I think as much as partners and stuff that can come into schools and go, oh, look at IT, it's really good. It's all about social circles. At the end of the day, when you're at that school, back even when I was at school, it was about where your friends were going, what class were your friends in going, and you wanted to go like that. And I think once it's not an individual you need to change. I think it's everything, the whole structure around everything.
It's all around as well social media now. It's so the way that I'm thinking of it is, from a girl's perspective in a social group, it's all around influencers and Instagram and what you see, on the beauty side of things, just naturally. Whereas for the boys, it's a lot to do with YouTube, gamers, and things like that. And that's just what they're looking. I was just trying to think then, what I see on social media around tech, around women that I know through the community, through LinkedIn and things like that. But for someone younger, there's no one. There's nothing that shows you that, is there?
No, you don't see those role models.
No. Whereas you'll see, you've got the classic doctors and whatever. But from a tech perspective, you'd literally see nothing.
I think it's something that one of our previous guests has said as well, is that when you look at TV shows, films, all of the cool IT guys are all guys.
Yeah.
So can you name any female role models that you see in films that are doing tech? Me and John just sat there and there is names that come to mind, but they're not immediate where they should be.
I put a LinkedIn post up yesterday around, and the image was female leaders that changed the tech industry. I didn't know one of them, at all.
No.
And it's one of them. I'll need to go back and sort of research and just find out. It's going way back, but that's the first time I'd ever seen that image, and I didn't know one of them.
Yeah.
So
that information needs to be out there. It needs to be front of mind.
Yeah, I think so. But that'd be something. The history of female leaders and women in tech could be something that can be taught in schools, because you do get the rest. You do get other things like that, don't you? But
And maybe there needs to be more courses that are just for women. If you've got girls not putting themselves forward because they think it's a boy thing, but if you had a dedicated course, normally I'm not sort of really up for sort of having it girl only or whatever, but maybe there needs to be that. Like, look at football now for girls. Like, there's a lot that's clearly that's working really well. More and more girls are getting into football. I think that maybe we could learn in our sector how is that being achieved? So what can we do to be winning at Euro level as females in tech, and how can we then influence the younger generation?
But that's been years and years of hard work.
Yeah.
The England Lionesses, like, back for the last 20 years, like, really fighting for their piece of the pie, so to speak. Yeah. And it has come to just recent successes and a couple of real big role models within the England team, like Beth Mead and the other Stevenson, and who's the one who scored the goal, like all Ellen White and stuff like that. They're big role models for, like, even people out, like even guys as well. And I think that's what needs to be done. What we need to do, Sophie, we need to get you on TikTok doing some influencing.
There is obviously Miss Excel who does TikTok videos.
Yeah, I think Kat, I don't know her new surname, Kat previously Greenham.
Yeah, she does TikTok
as well.
I'm not cool enough for TikTok. I wouldn't know what to do.
But I think like platforms like that is where the young generation, both male and female, is going to be like is where they're going to be easily influenced to start doing tech stuff.
One of the things I did recently, I reached out to my daughter's school just to try and get an understanding of how many girls are actually in the different IT classes across the year groups. And there's 28 students in each class. Year 9 there's 7 girls, Year 10 there's 3, and Year 11 there's 6. So it just goes to show there is girls obviously looking at IT as a GCSE, but there's still not enough. But one of the also interesting things as well, the person that basically came back to me from the school for head of computing is also a woman in tech as well, which she probably doesn't even realise she is. So it's a conversation. I mean, I would love to be able to go into that school and, you know, share my experience and try and do a little bit more with them because they're local to me, and, you know, help and support my local community is something that I do through football and obviously, you know, anything else.
It'd be interesting to see as well, since that teacher has been an IT teacher, how many people have come on and how many was before.
Yeah, 100%.
That'd be interesting to know.
But what about playing devil's advocate? Women just don't want to be in IT.
Potentially. But if you look at other countries, that's what for me it's like looking at Poland or looking at, say, India. There's a definite more sort of even balance with females coming into tech and going through uni.
So that's why I asked the question.
Yeah,
I didn't want to just be like, I don't want to be. Don't worry, I'm just asked. Yeah.
Yeah. So the question is, if in other countries they're not facing that same demographic challenge of gender balance, but what is it that our society is doing that?
Even Scandinavian stuff, we speak to some of the people from Sweden and Finland and stuff that we've had previously, and some like Sarah who's around, like they say we don't see like any like the
negativity,
any negativity where they are, because they say it's quite 50%. Sometimes there's not as many women, but it's like when there is, like there's quite a few and there's no negativity towards them. So I think we need to learn a lot from the Scandinavian countries and Nordic countries about how they go about things, really. They just seem super chilled. I think Finland's like the happiest country in the world, isn't it? Something
like that.
Happiest.
Yeah, happiest.
That sounds lovely.
Happiest, yeah. Happiest, not hippiest.
No, happiest, yeah.
It's like the happiest place in the world, apparently, country in the world.
How do they judge that?
I don't know.
Microsoft Forms survey, maybe?
Yeah, Microsoft Forms.
I don't know.
What's your experience been like over the years being a woman in tech?
So I guess I have worked in the industry my whole life, so I haven't really thought about it until I was doing more diversity and inclusion work. But I would say really positive. I've always felt very supportive. Sometimes I get asked loaded questions by journalists about sort of the negatives, but I personally have felt very supported. I remember there was somebody who won a woman who won a Nobel Peace Prize, and she said that she felt she was made to feel very privileged and special. And I would say I would echo that. I think I haven't faced any negative situations or sort of barriers, you could say, to my progress. If anything, I think I felt very supported with my career, so I feel very lucky.
And did you have, when you were going through your career, did you have female leaders to look up to, or is there anyone that sort of inspired you to get into tech?
No, not really, actually. Just fell into it by accident, really. I actually wanted to work in air traffic control. I'm an adrenaline junkie. But
there we go, John. So we can get Miri back on to be a fighter pilot and do flight control. There we go.
Yeah, but I'm dyslexic as well. So dyslexic air traffic controls is not something you want. You need to be able to tell your left from your right, because you'd have to tell planes to head a certain direction. So after failing my left and right test, I decided I'd stay in tech. But I'm being an adrenaline junkie. I think if you like a fast-paced environment where things are ever changing, there's probably no better place than working in tech. So
let's touch on the neurodiversity, because obviously that is quite a big thing, I'd say, within the IT market. I think a lot of the most successful people in the IT market space have been neurodiverse to some degree, obviously Bill Gates being one, as a big example. So I think, for myself, obviously I suffer with ADHD. I think because of having that kind of weird and wonderful mindset, it kind of gives you that more focus in what you want to do and what you want to achieve. And obviously, we had Donna Sarkar on, she's also dyslexic, and a few other guests as well, to be fair. It hasn't stopped them from achieving, the heights of what they have done. Like for yourself, you're a CEO of your own company and quite a leader in the women in tech space. So how do you see your neurodiversity affect you, or you each other difficulties or challenges?
So I would say, first of all, it wasn't until I was in my sort of early 30s that I had a diagnosis. I was studying an MBA, and I didn't want to fail because I couldn't spell the words and the names of the gurus or whatever. And it took probably quite a long time for me to realise that the way that I thought was not normal. I just assumed everyone had a very visual brain like me, had a million ideas a minute like me.
You sound like Andrew.
So yeah, maybe I have ADHD as well, who knows, but and I know I can't dance very well, so I'm probably dyspraxic as well, who knows. But you don't ever want to ask me to dance, because I'll be treading on your toes. But
maybe tonight, later, John.
There you go. You'd have to be a brave.
Yeah, me singing, you dancing.
Yeah, I'd be a brave man. But I would say that I think it's really important, actually, that we all have to acknowledge that everyone is individual, whether you have a neurodiversity, and in my mind, you're lucky enough to have a neurodiversity because your brain is wired differently. And I think that we were, as human species, always that there was, I would say, people who have been given this gift of neurodiversity because we need these skills that it gives you as superpowers to do some of the things that are really important. And I always think about the resilience of people like Greta and all the great work that she does. And if she didn't have the thick skin and the resilience to do what she does every day when people are always there trying to pull her down, maybe we wouldn't have made some of the progress that we have. And I think it's really important that look at all the many entrepreneurs in the world. And often people talk obviously about Richard Branson, but I wouldn't be surprised if sort of 60% of business owners, entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs are dyslexic. And the very reason they're sort of successful entrepreneurs is because some of the important things to be an entrepreneur is your ability to see trends and to sort of to spot sort of opportunities in the market, to think outside the box, to innovate, to problem solve, to solve some problems that are for clients instead of just product design for product design's sake, but thinking about, well, what are the needs in the market, and designing clever things that will be relevant. And not necessarily doing what everyone else has always done as well. So many of those skills are really valid for any entrepreneur to be successful, and many of the other neurodiversities have unique superpowers, I would say, that are really great to leverage. And of course there are definite disadvantages and drawback, but I would say that if you want to call it normal people, maybe have the drawback that they can't maybe think in the way that neurodiverse people. So I think we as a society need to leverage all of the superpowers that every single person has, whether you're neurodiverse or not, and bring everyone together to realise we shouldn't be looking to clone everybody as one, because actually it's the mix of all the talents that actually make us more successful.
That's very much like what Donna says, isn't it? So, Donna speaks very openly about her neurodiversity, and obviously drives, change in that market space. And, Donna's been on this podcast. Me and John spent, quite a bit of time with Donna. She is just an amazing woman that works in tech. That is a shining light to basically focus on people that have them kind of difficulties and challenges. Because every person that sits in a room with Donna and listens to anything that she says, they're always fully engaged, because you know exactly how she's delivering her sessions to be impactful. And I have nothing but respect for her as an individual, as a woman in tech, and as a person that works within Microsoft. And I say, John always throws things at me all the time, and I end up running mad with them and get things sorted.
I have an idea, and I go, got this idea, I think it's good. Let's ask Andrew what he thinks. By 8 o'clock that's normally like 10 o'clock at night. By like 8 o'clock the next morning, there's a Twitter post out, and by 10 o'clock, it's booked in and done.
Oh, you know what? We all need phenomenal executors. When you've got creators, the challenge is that there's so many ideas on the table. It's like nothing. You need some amazing executors like that to get stuff done.
There's a couple of nights ago, I think it was about 10:30. It was 10:30 at night, and then we were like 50th episode coming up. I need a decent idea for it, so it's just like, Andrew, why don't we go and ask as many male people, men in the community, just one question, and get their answer, and then we'll stick it all together into one podcast, and then we've done it. We're getting there. We're getting everyone's.
So that was at 10:30. By say 11 o'clock, I've already got a couple of people signed up to do it.
Yeah.
And then the following day, then it was like, John, here you go. Look, here's a Twitter post. Here's a whole list of people, about 15 different people that have all said yes. They'll be a part of it. So
who wouldn't want somebody like that in their team?
There you go.
So we've done that. So creative mind here, and execution and everything is over there for that one.
So, obviously, on the way here as well, you mentioned that you do a lot with the BBC, you do other extra bits. Just talk about that and explain that, if that's okay.
Yeah, actually, so I've got 3 kids, 9, 18 and 20, and in addition to wanting to be a role model to all those young girls who might want to work in tech, I've aspired to be a role model to my older kids, that they never need a job, ever, unless they want one. They could be like their own brand and go out there. So a few years ago, I started doing a lot more work, you could say, on personal brand. So since then, it's I've been told that nobody ever wants to speak to a company; they want to speak to a person. Mm-hmm. So I've been a lot more engaged with journalists, and they say media breeds media. And so
I love that, by the way. No one wants to talk to an organisation; no one wants to talk to a person.
Yeah.
I'm using that.
Yeah.
Right.
And so the 2 subjects I probably speak most often about are sort of early in careers. I think more companies need to invest in them and give them a chance, and also whether it's apprenticeships or grads, I don't really mind, but also neurodiversity. And so I was invited by the government, I think it was a couple of years ago, or last February or so ago, but anyway, by the All Parliamentary Committee to speak at their All Parliamentary Committee about apprenticeships, as one of 2 companies they invited for my opinions. And I don't know how they found me, but they did. Media Beats Media. And so following that, some journalists wrote up, and then the Times Educational Supplement wrote about my ideas. And then Computer Weekly saw that article, and then they phoned me and said, hey, could you write a blog? And then the Department of Education have been in touch with me. So it's literally my diary now, without me ever asking, is full of speaking engagements. And I have sort of loved doing that. And just if I can inspire, we're doing a lot, we've just moved to a 9-day fortnight, which is like a 4-day week.
Okay.
And so I get asked all the time, that's really disruptive. I love to be disruptive, I suspect. But yeah, I just love to.
did that as well, didn't they? They've done that as well. Are you
Fantastic.
Doing an extra half an hour a day to make up the one day?
Yeah, so the way it works is, ours is a 9-day fortnight.
Yes.
And yes, so on Monday to Thursday they do an extra half a day.
Yeah.
However, on the first Friday, it's what we call a silk day. So strategy, innovation, learning, community and community and charity. And so that's a day where we're not allowed to do any client work. Incidentally, we've got a support team that sort of is split in two, so they alternate. So we do have clients able to have support on that day. But so we basically, that's a sort of what we call a silk day, and that's about driving the business forward and at a personal level and as well at the company level. And then the alternate Friday is what we call a Fab Friday, which is a day completely off. So technically, if you look over, and on average over a 2-week period, the working hours is reduced down to 35.5 hours.
Okay.
And it's all about, if you do that in your business, your focus has to be on productivity.
Yeah.
So do you have an hour meeting when you could have a half-hour meeting?
Yeah.
Technically, as a business owner, I would say, if you're on your deathbed as a business owner and you're thinking about doing this and you think to yourself, for only 2 hours a week, which frankly I bet your employees waste more than 2 hours a week, for only 2 hours a week you could gift your employees a whole day off every 2 weeks to spend with their family or friends or to do something meaningful or about their purpose. Wouldn't that be a good thing? Wouldn't you want that? And if you knew that your revenues and profits were not going to decline, wouldn't you do that? And I bet everyone would.
Yeah,
so why are we
yeah.
not doing it?
Yeah.
There's no
love
cost.
That thinking. That's a great
I do.
Love that Friday. It's a soup day.
Oh,
That's amazing.
yeah. There's a lot of people that they're especially sort of middle of career, and they don't necessarily have a voice in the strategy of your business, and they have ideas because they see what's happening in the marketplace, they hear what clients are saying. I think it's really important for people to feel engaged with the growth of the business, and so having that day also gives them a voice, but also helps them work across the business with different departments and different roles. And imagine if you're a consultant and day in, day out, you're working on one. I've heard, well, it's not unusual, where I worked at IBM, you'd be on one client for years, possibly. Imagine having the opportunity to be more engaged with your business rather than that feeling of gone native because you've been on one client forever.
Yeah.
I think it's really important that companies look to really engage the talent and resources they have to grow their business, not just to create revenue.
How do you I'm going to be here talking to you for hours. So how do you implement that strategic day and across the business? What type of things would they do in those days?
So for me, there's three. I think of it as 3 buckets. So community and charity, and we're going to do even more of that next year. So it will be a dedicated day a quarter. So you have to have a calendar. So we know what those days are in advance. So a dedicated day, and it could be that individuals do certain things that are close to their heart, or it could be a more collective team building thing. Like for example, we're doing a sleep out by the sort of I-360 in Brighton for homeless,
That's
local
gonna be a bit
homeless.
cold, isn't it?
It will be. Yeah, you are allowed a sleeping bag, and I hope it doesn't rain because I don't know what happens then. But apparently they have on-tap tea all day. But I really sort of think there's a lot that we can do in our society to make sure there's less people that are homeless. So I think that's a great charity that we support, which is particularly actually for a younger group of people. So that's a sort of charity and community. And I think that if you were to look at it as a cynical entrepreneur, then you might say, do you know what? If you ever apply for any award, they always ask, what are you doing in the community? And if you are doing more, then your brand gets out there, and that can compound your success, and then you potentially have more revenues or fundraising opportunities. So I think it's a win-win-win. And we're also applying for a B Corp, where actually an important strand of being a B Corp organisation is making sure you're doing enough for the benefit of the community. So so people are free to spend their time on the Friday on things that are close to the heart. And one thing that we'll be doing more of is getting engaged with local schools. So I'm actively involved in a local school at the moment with their entrepreneurship program, mentoring kids through like a Dragon's Den style initiative, and that's really rewarding, and a lot of my team want to do that. And then on the strategy and innovation, we've been doing a lot of building IP and product, and you have to manage each of those. Everything that you do under that building IP, you have to really make sure that you see it through, that you can deliver on the value on it, not just build it. But I would say as a business, we've identified key rocks, we call them, of growth, that are initiatives that will grow our business and create future value. And so we make sure they're managed in the same way you would manage a client project through our project management system, and you allocate resources to it, because as any business owner would know, if you're not actually delivering on your strategic goals, then you won't grow the business forward. You have to actually assign time for that. And then the last area is learning, and for me that's not just receiving training, but it might also be about delivering training. I think there's no better way to learn actually than to be a part of teaching somebody else a skill. But we've also set up an internal academy, which is about sort of we've identified a syllabus of learning and sort of skills for different career paths, and so we're creating content using the talent that we have in the business that is, you could say, accessible and online on our learning management system that we've brought in for everyone across the business, and that will only accelerate the skills, which I'm sure in turn will benefit clients. So that's how the time is allocated. So we've a forward plan, and it's managed by somebody in the business who's got project management skills as well.
And how would you think, like working, like doing stuff in the tech community, like being at the South Coast Summits, user groups and stuff like that, how do you think that improves your reputation at Cloud9 Insight?
Coming here?
Yeah.
I'll be completely selfish. We're here because we want to make sure that if there's anyone here who's thinking about a new career in Cloud9, that we're accessible. They can come and meet with us, and you never know, there'll be people along the way who come and support our ambition about growing talent in the community, because I think there needs to be more done, not just to take talent, but to actually sort of create future talent as well. So if there's people who are here who share that ambition in mentoring or training or helping create new talent, then that's mainly why I'm here. But we did meet a few clients actually, so
Awesome.
that was good.
Nice. Anyway, we are coming towards the end now because it's 2:45.
Have you had lunch yet?
Yeah, but I need a toilet break before our next session. It's been an absolute honour to have you here. And like the last couple of the last 10 minutes, just put so many ideas and stuff in my head.
Andrew, you got to watch out.
I'm gonna turn my phone off. That's what.
Group chat's going on mute.
But yeah, it's great to have you. First in person one with Andrew, Sophie, and yourself. So it's been good. And yeah, we'll see everyone else next time.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Spotlight podcast. Take care all.
Thank you for listening to the Microsoft Spotlight podcast. Please make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe button to help us promote our message. You can also follow us on Twitter at MSFT Spotlight, and we're also on LinkedIn, the Microsoft Spotlight podcast. And finally, we'd like to tell you a little bit about BitTitan and thank them for sponsoring this podcast.
Remote migrations start here. Let MigrationWiz do the work for you. It's fast, secure, and 100% SaaS, which means you can migrate at any time and from anywhere. Migrate mailboxes, documents, public folders, personal archives, or even Microsoft Teams with just a few clicks. No special training needed and no customer downtime. When the work matters, choose MigrationWiz.